Welcome to the Blues Society of Northwest Florida's official weekly podcast. I am Paul Stadden, your host, welcoming this week Nick Peraino, lead singer and guitarist of Nick and the Ovorols, the next awesome blues band you're going to get to hear Monday, March 3rd in downtown Pensacola at Lily Marlane's in Seville Quarter. Welcome to the podcast, Nick.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Well, let's start off at the top, man. Tell me about how you got into blues guitar. Who were the bands that got you latched onto it? You know, what were the artists that really got you saying guitar, blues, this is where I want to go?
Yeah, well, I guess initially that would be Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I hear you.
There is a live video called Live at Elmo Combo.
Very familiar with it.
Yeah, it's just, still to this day when I watch it, I'm just blown away. It's incredible. But then I started listening to, BB and Robert Cray and Bonnie Raitt, all the big ones, and just got hooked, man.
What was it before the guitar? Didn't you take piano or something?
I did, yeah. I played piano from age 5 to 16, but it never really took. Once I started playing guitar, it was way more. It just came to me more natural than keyboards did.
Well, that's cool. And did you kind of latch onto those guys who could sing and play? Because, I know that you're also the lead singer of the band. Your voice kind of, if people haven't heard any of your songs, we will be playing one of your songs in the podcast, but if anybody hasn't heard one of your songs, I'd say your voice is kind of Paul Rodgers-ish from Bad Company. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. But is that something that you really wanted to do too? Just be at the front of the band with their voice as well?
I always have wanted to do that, and I've always really sucked at it. But I think I'm hard-headed and stubborn, and even if I can't do something that I really want to do, I just keep doing it until I can. So I think throughout my teen years and college years, I probably didn't put on the greatest performances, but I've come a long way sticking to it.
Well, I know that, kind of cutting your teeth in the blues scene in Chicago, you have to be hard-headed to make it through that.
Yeah, that too.
So how did you get there? How did you get into that scene in Chicago, playing like 3 hours a night for like 4 nights a week?
Yeah, that, actually I had just opened my guitar repair shop, and Joanna Connor brought her guitar to me to fix it, and she's been on that scene, toured nationally, internationally.
Right.
And she asked me to come sit in at House of Blues on her gig, so I went down and played a couple songs, and then she started hiring me for gigs, and the rest is history. Oh,
that's always nice. Well, how'd the band get started, man? And well, actually, first of all, let's say the Ovorols. Where did this name come from? Because those who are just listening to this and haven't seen the name, it's spelled Ovorols. So how did the band get started, and how'd you pick this name?
Pick the name. I just changed the spelling of Overalls because I did a little research online to see if there were bands out there, and there were. So I just kind of, did the trademark thing and respelled it.
Well, fortunately, in the era of Google, things get respelled when you type it in anyway. So Google's like, did you mean this, Nick, in the Overall? So it's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, it works. I think it works. Some people are weirded out by it. They're like, the name doesn't make any sense.
Well, it looks cool when it's up on the marquee on the vinyl, So
yeah,
it works really nicely that way. Well, you mentioned your guitar repair shop. Let's talk a little bit, because you build your own amps, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, now, do you use those on tour? Is there some reason you started doing this yourself? Were there just amps that didn't get you the sound you liked?
Yeah, I kind of always was a Fender amp guy, and I could never really get my favorite guitar player's tones, whether it be Stevie Ray or Warren Haynes of the Allman Brothers. So I started reading a little bit about modding those amps. So I started modding them a little bit, and then eventually just got to the point where I was like, you know what? I think I could build one from scratch and just basically build my dream amp. And if it is my dream amp, then somebody else is probably going to like it too.
Fair enough.
But it's also a really expensive business to get into if you don't have any capital. So
right.
Not really doing it so much these days.
Fair enough. What are the guitars that you use? What's the gear that you take out with you on the road? Are you a Gibson guy, a Fender guy?
I was a Fender guy until I started playing with Joanna, and then a guy brought this Les Paul into my shop, and I was just hooked I had to buy it.
Hooked from that point on.
Yeah.
What is it about the Gibson over the Fender that really grabs you?
It's just more elegant, you know?
Yeah. All right, I get you.
Got really nice sustain. It's got a thick tone.
Mm-hmm.
I would still play a Fender if I was after that sound for something, but I'm just not there right now.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, because you're talking about your influences a little bit. If you could play with one artist in history in a band, you know, your guy that you can grab, who would it be? Who would be that dream guy in your band?
Oh, to play in my band?
Oh, absolutely. Who could you grab? And why?
Ooh. Well, I think he's passed away, but, he has passed away. Richie Hayward of Little Feat.
Richie Hayward of Little Feat. Okay, why?
His drumming is just ridiculous, man. He just had some serious swampy mojo playing. And
that's
always got me.
That's the best adjective I've heard all day. Serious swampy mojo. I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, tell me about the new album that you guys just put out last year too. You guys have a new album, Nick and the Overalls, Telegraph Taboo. Tell me how it took shape. Tell me about the guys in the band and how you got this record out.
For sure. I recorded most of that in my condo in Chicago with a buddy of mine. He would come over maybe one day a week with his laptop. We did the drums somewhere else, obviously, but all the rest there, just real slow process over about a year. I played most of the bass, and I played mostly everything except keyboards and drums on it.
Right.
So it wasn't really so much of a band effort. But, the guys have to play the stuff live. So
right.
And the band has changed over the 2.5 years we've been around. So.
Sure. Who are the guys in the band now?
Cam Lewis on drums and Ari Cedar on bass.
Very cool. We're going to get to see them coming up on Monday, March 3rd. Just a reminder, Nick and the Overalls, Monday, March 3rd, Lily Marlene's, downtown Pensacola. One last question for you, Nick, before we get wrapped up. And it's a question I try to ask everybody in the podcast every week, which is your thoughts on the blues, about how pure should the blues be? Is it okay that there's all this, rock blues, even metal blues, country blues, Are you a purist, or do you think that it's okay to be all really inclusive with everything under this umbrella term, the blues?
Man, I'm kind of glad you asked that question, because
all right.
I just really, I'm definitely not a purist. That being said, I definitely appreciate it, but
right.
I am a boundary stretcher, and I want to take it to a new place, try new things, and I want to rehash what's already been done. So,
right.
In Chicago, people don't think I'm a blues artist, but pretty much everywhere else I go, they call us a blues band. So it's all perspective, Well,
I think that if you pulled out what you play, in like Austin City Limits or the Montreux Jazz Festival, people would say, oh, there's this blues band called Nick and the Overalls, I don't know, maybe that's a problem of regionality, where people kind of get latched on to a particular style. Like if you go out to San Francisco and you say, like, I play thrash, but they say, oh, you don't sound like Metallica, so you're not thrash. But you go anywhere else in the country and, oh yeah, you're a thrash band, or any other genre. I mean, is it just them being picky, or is it you think they're trying to preserve something?
I think sometimes maybe they're trying to preserve. Sometimes people just want something to complain about, because that's just the nature of human mentality. So,
well, with that insight into the human nature from Nick Peraino, we're going to wrap up this week's podcast. My thanks so much to you, Nick Peraino. And make sure you come see them play for free at Lily Marlene's, Seville Quarter, downtown Pensacola, Monday, March 3rd. They're going to be starting at 8 o'clock. Make sure you check them out online, too. nickandtheoveralls.com. And that's Overalls, spelled Overols, or find them on Facebook. You have a great night, Nick, and I'm looking forward to hearing you play.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
And as I mentioned, Nick and the Overalls does have a new album that's out called Telegraph Taboo. Gonna play a really cool song for you here off that album called Heed the Words I Say. Enjoy Pensacola. Make sure you come support the Blues Society of Northwest Florida every Monday night with the Blues Jams. Drop some money in the drum. I'm Paul Stadden, your host, and until next week, make sure you keep the blues alive.